You can see how easily the Formula One car beat the two road cars back to the start. Driving a Formula One car at racing speeds imposes tremendous stresses, G-forces, on the drivers. So each driver has a seat actually moulded to his body, and he's held in place by a full safety harness. But his head, of course, is unsupported.
The problem in corners is only the neck, because the helmet is heavier than a cap, for example. So when you go through to a corner, your head is always moving outwards. And there are some circuits, like in Brazil, where the corners are banked. The G-force is getting so high nowadays that after, I would say, 30 laps, you can't hold your head straight because your muscles start to ache and they can't cope with the G-force.
The older front-engine design of racing cars couldn't develop such great cornering stresses. And in those cars, you could actually see the driver. You might not be able to recognize him, but you could see that somebody was driving the car, see them actually handling it. Nowadays, in the interest of reducing air resistance, the driver is almost covered in. You just see the top of his helmet, and you're scarcely aware of the man, the personality, driving the car. But back to our history. In the late 1950s, a great step forward was made, which took Formula One cars further away from road cars. The English constructor, John Cooper, put the engine behind the driver, but in front of the rear wheels. This was a great improvement in weight distribution, but most road cars are four-seaters, so they couldn't, and still haven't been able to, copy this layout. But even these cars, with their engines behind the driver, were in the dark ages of suspension and handling. A great driver of this period, Stirling Moss, said, "In those days, if the car was a bit short of grip at either end, we just let a few pounds of air out of the front or rear tyres." Older racing cars were comparatively simple. Modern ones require many people to produce them. Their research, design, development and construction is very labour-intensive. For every man you see here, there are 30 backing him up. These cars are at the forefront of technology, yet when they leave the factory, they still aren't ready to race. Why? After all, your road car leaves its factory ready to use. That's because it's set up for average conditions. If we were to take even a car like this, which handles well, we could still improve it for this circuit. But then it might not handle so well on a bumpier circuit. There's no such thing as an average setting for a Formula One car. They're fine-tuned for each driver and each circuit they race on. And every circuit is different. Some are flat. Some are hilly. Some are twisty and narrow. Some are wide with fast open corners. Some are as smooth as a pool table. The cars must be exactly right. Because in Formula One racing, hundredths of a second count. This is what practice for the race is about. It's not like a golfer practicing his swing or a tennis player working on his serve. Of course, the drivers are trying out their techniques, but most of all, they're finding the best combination of all the adjustments on the car.
So what I need is some more front wing, because it's understeering, especially in the high-speed corners. Or we take some of the rear wing, we're the last hole here, and we need to bleed the brakes because the pedal is quite soft.
They need to adjust their aerodynamic aids, the stiffness of different roll bars, the ride height of the car, different degrees of rebound on the dampers, minute variations of the angles of the wheels. All a giant interrelated jigsaw.
And less rear wing, yeah?
Yeah. Take one hole off the rear wing, please.
And when they talk about how their cars handle, they use two terms all the time, oversteer and understeer. It isn't only Formula One cars that are affected by understeer and oversteer. It affects road cars too. This Ford Cortina is actually a well-balanced car, but this skilled racing driver is going to throw it off balance deliberately.